California's pretty nice, I'm just saying. Michael, a little advice. Be careful of those tall things in Chicago. No, not the buildings, those other tall things. I think they're called trees. Be careful, they're shady. Last year I did stand-up comedy here, and it totally changed my life. No, I didn't do the Jay Leno show. Oddly enough, Comedy Central never called me. And the HBO special, oh, it didn't pan out. Even though my career didn't skyrocket as one might have expected, my life did change. Before I did stand-up comedy, I would make breakfast, go to work, come home, make dinner. And after I did stand-up comedy, now I make breakfast, I go to work, I come home, I make dinner. Clearly my life is much more exciting now. Speaking of excitement, I like to have fun, but I've noticed that some people hate to have fun. They turn downhill skiing into cross-country skiing. They take a card game and they turn it into bridge. They watch a race and come up with marathons. I mean, seriously, these things are not fun. Fun is wearing jeans to church, going home to watch a Hallmark movie, while cleaning out your closet. So I had another birthday this year, and I don't know about you, but this aging thing is really getting old. And I'm old enough to notice that time flies whether you're having fun or not. So we finished up the study of Acts this year, or you might call it the Acts of Jesus Christ by the power of the Holy Spirit through the willing and obedient apostles. I like to call it that when I have extra time on my hands. I think it might be a little intimidating to meet Paul. You know, all that godly authority. But did you know that Paul was really good at math? He took the gospel message and he didn't subtract from it, he didn't add to it, and he didn't divide it. But he did multiply it among many thousands. I wish Paul was in charge of my money. Pastor Gary Sr. reminds me of Paul. You know, all that godly authority. Plus, he has that sheriff's deputy background. When I'm late for church, I'm afraid he might arrest me. You know you're really late for church when the first thing you hear him say is, "In just a moment, I'm going to give you an opportunity to receive Christ." As a Christian, there are some things about this church that concern me. I've noticed that in this very church, on Wednesday mornings, certain women of the church are locked in the fellowship hall, forced to sew with only coffee to drink. And is it true that we send our youth to Mexico to work without pay? I think one of the Garys around here should look into that. So, my husband and I celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. Yep, we've been happily married all of 22 years. I love my husband. He puts up with a lot, mainly me. He thinks I may be a little obsessive-compulsive, but I disagree. Yes, I email my adult children every night to see what they've eaten that day. Yes, I have written out my own funeral service. And yes, I do clean my house alphabetically, but everyone does that. Anyway, my husband is a foot doctor. You probably know him. He's pretty famous. It's like being married to a celebrity, you know, without the Malibu beach house, of course. And he even has paparazzi. If paparazzi are always taking off their shoes and showing you their feet when you're in a restaurant, and you anniversary. People always ask me how I came to live in the desert, and actually, it was a huge misunderstanding. I didn't really expect to move to the desert. I thought my husband asked me if I wanted to get dessert. And now I understand why he was so confused when I asked him, where are the sprinkles? I just love New Year's. It's a new year. It's a clean slate. It's a chance to start over. But as a Christian, I know that the Lord's mercies are new every day. You don't have to wait for New Year's to make a change. You can start tomorrow, which is New Year's, but still. So, I'd like to wrap this up by sharing some practical wisdom with you that I've gained over the past year. I learned these things the hard way. So, here is a countdown of my top 8 tips for the new year. Tip number 8. If you want to be a student of the Bible, you might want to get a dictionary. That way you won't waste time walking in circles when you read that a Christian should walk circumspectly. Tip number 7. When family members are traveling in different time zones, even though you might be curious about what time it is there, don't try to figure it out. It really doesn't matter, and it's not worth the painful headache. And besides, they're going to call you at 4 in the morning anyways. Tip number 6. When picking up a family member at the airport, not only is it important to be there at the same time they get in, but also the same day. That's important. Tip number 5. When you take your dogs to the groomer, don't forget about them and go down the hill and let your cell phone die, which will then cause your husband to have to figure out how to get them when he's working late. That was a really bad day for my husband. I was having fun. Tip number 4. When you see a bug, make sure it really is a bug before you make a huge scene. Make sure it's not a nutshell or a brownie crumb or a leaf or your own hair. Tip number 3. If you have a double oven, make sure you cook your food in the oven that you actually turn on. It's important. Tip number 2. When you're at a gas station, always take the gas nozzle out of the car before you drive away. And finally, last but not least, the number 1 top tip for the new year. When leaving the grocery store, make sure the car you are trying to get into really is your car. Happy New Year. Thank you.